Can you give a background about your disability and your experience navigating through it?
hmm So I was actually born in a normal hearing family. I am the only one with a hearing loss. Um, so it's not genetic or it's more of the sensory nerve damage, nerve loss time. I am moderate to severe hearing loss in both ears. My left ear is my better ear, but like we all have those kind of things. Um, so my parents actually did not find out that I had a hearing loss until I was about 2 or 3 years old, and so somehow I compensated for my hearing loss up to that point. I was like all the doctors, all the speech language pathologists, all those people that they took me to, um, they all thought I just had a speech delay, that I was okay. Like, it's all right, no worries. But my mom just knew something was off. Like she just knew that she couldn't understand why she could stomp. Like she could come up behind me stomping her shoe. Like she would be wearing high heel shoes and she would stomp on the wooden floor and I wouldn't pick up on that. And like so she just knew something wasn't off and she didn't want to take no for an answer. And so, and also the other thing to consider is that when I was born in 1986, the mandatory hearing test that they do for newborns in the hospitals in Virginia, that wasn't mandatory back then. That didn't happen until like in the 90s or something like that. So we don't know if I was born that way or because we didn't have the hearing test then. We also, there's some other maybe factors I would say that could contribute to it. That is that one, my mom almost had a miscarriage with me. They thought that she was losing me, and turned out obviously she wasn't. And but so there was that. There was also I was born a month and a week early, so I was actually considered a preemie, and so they don't know if it's from that. And then when I was about 9 months old or so, before I turned one, I had a really high fever. And so there's a lot of contributions I would say that might have influenced it, but we can't exactly pinpoint for sure what exactly caused it. And so I was, like I said, I was about 2 or 3 years old when they found out about my hearing loss, and they actually took me to UVA. UVA has a really good audiology program there and stuff like that, even back in the 80s, 90s. And so even all those doctors there, they even said that I was fine. And so it wasn't until the last test, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically where they put you to sleep and they put all those like electrodes, like it's like the little nerves, wires that they put to your head and they put until they monitor your brain waves and all that stuff. I know there's a name for it, I just can't think of it. So I was asleep in that, and that's when they realized how bad it was. My mom would tell the story that she was in the observation room with the doctor when I was asleep, and she was clenching her ears. It was just a really, really loud noise, and she was like clenching from it. It was bothering her. I was still sleeping through it, and she remembers saying like, "Isn't that hurting Allison? Isn't that hurting her ears?" And the doctor was like, she's not recognizing that at all. Like, it's not picking up on anything. So that's when they realized how bad it was. And so from there, the doctors, audiologists, all of them, I know studies have changed since then because I've even read about them even this summer for one of my classes. They also, they said not to do sign language with me because then I wouldn't rely on my vocal skills. And so even yeah, that's why I don't really know sign language. I mean, now I know it just very basic, just to, like because I took classes in college or whatever, but I'm not fluent in sign language. And so the doctors wanted, because I was already having a grasp on my speech a little bit by that point, they wanted my parents to keep reinforcing that. And so that's why I do really well with vocal. Um, so from there, like one of the biggest things that I would contribute to how well I do speaking, or um, just, I mean, how well I do overall. Like people are always amazed, like, hey, you're going to grad school, like that's amazing. Like I shouldn't be. If you actually look at my audiogram, like they're just like my doctors can't believe how well I'm doing considering how bad of a loss it is, like kind of thing. And so one of the things that my mom put me in the 4-H program, and particularly for the horses. I loved horses as a kid. I had horses growing up. I still love horses. I just can't afford them right now. So she put me in this club that was specifically all about horses. And so she figured, why not make Allison talk more about something that she loves? Like, that will help her with her speech. And so, in particular, she put me in the horse judging program. And a little bit, and I give a lot of credit to my mom for this and for my coach for the horse judging program, because she also had a speech problem when she was a child. So she knew exactly where I was coming from, sort of. And so, anyway, so horse judging is not necessarily where I'm riding the horse or showing the horse. I'm judging the horse based on certain criterias or breed functions or riding styles or whatever. And then what you had to do was that you had to give a presentation or what they call reason. And this was like a public presentation that you had maybe like a half hour or so to present, like prepare for it. It all was in your, had to be in your head. You could not have any notes or anything like that. And basically you were trying to convince the officials or the adult judges why you placed the class the way you did. And so and this was usually about a 5 minute long presentation, all memorized, like whatever. So for me, who did not like public speaking at all, who had a speech problem, I mean, I couldn't even say my own name for the first several years of my life because Allison Stefansson with all the S's is really hard to say for. And so my parents put me in this particular program, and eventually I made it to the state team and national level, and I competed on national level, and I actually placed in the top 10 for reasons and presentations, which is really like was not expected at all. And so that would be probably one of the greatest influence on me for how well I function, because I mean it wasn't just public speaking. It was just also showing me how to relate with others and talk to others and all that stuff. You can tell I have my notes, so I want to make sure I'm not going to get sidetracked. um, so, and then the two other things that I just want to touch briefly on is that I lip read. So that's probably why I was doing so well as a child before they realized how bad it was. I remember the one time my sister's 4 years older than me, and I remember one time, I don't even remember what we were mad at each other for, just typical sibling thing. And I always had the habit of laying in front of the TV, and she would be up on the furniture. And so she was mad at me for something, and so she muted the TV. And it was like Friends, some sitcom was on or whatever, where you can actually see the person, not like animation. And I was all like, this person did blah, 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 and this person did blah, like whatever. She was so mad. She's like, and so even like I just taught myself how to do that. Like, and it wouldn't, we don't know how I did that. And so as long as I'm facing people when I'm talking to them, even if my hearing aids are out, I can still have conversation. And then the last thing that I would really say too when I talk about my hearing disability is that I used to view it as a curse. I really did. I was very upset. There was a time in my life when I was very upset and bitter about it. Like, I questioned why I had this, or because 9/11 happened when I was in high school. So, like, why did 9/11 happen? Why did this happen or that happen? I was just very upset. I mean, outwardly, I wasn't really showing it, but just inwardly, I was just having all those kind of feelings and all those kind of thoughts. And somehow, through a change of heart, through my faith journey, whatever you want to say, I started seeing it as a blessing instead of a curse. And so, and what I say with that is that it gives me that opportunity to see and relate to people in ways that I probably would not have been able to relate to. I can empathize with them. I can sometimes it's even just I can view how others are acting, and I'm like, hey man, like, that's not cool. Like, are you aware that by how you're standing and what you're saying, it's kind of coming across as hurtful or things like that? And so, and it also gives me the chance to relate with anyone that has a disability, really, because I know even though I might not have the same disability as you, I still know the feelings of being rejected or being made fun of or being like I know what it's like, and so I've kind of used that as my own calling, I guess, maybe platform. That like I just use that whenever I go overseas, especially I always want to find others that are disabled because I also want to be able to talk to them and try to encourage them too.